Yo, welcome back to the BST4 channel. What's going on? What's happening, man? Listen, thank you guys for checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, check out some more videos coming up. So anyway, we ain't even talking about this, man. What we were basically talking about was engines. The engine I started to think about was the single overhead cam, like I have right here out of my old Lincoln Town Car. Now this one here is a PI head, performance improved. This one has the better flow that everybody was more so talking about during the times of when these came out. So I'm looking at the design of it. Now this motor is starting to remind me of a motor of yesteryear, the 427 single overhead cam. Now in size, it's about the same. The head dimensions, the other one was a lot wider around this area right here, and the plugs are in the same area. Which brings us to this car here, which is a non-PI motor. Now I can go take the heads from out of the garage, slap them on here, and get more compression, a little bit more horsepower out of it. Simple, just by a head swap. But what I was really thinking about was the top 5 Ford engines that have a cult following. Most of them will be grouped together because basically they're the same type of engine. If people are building super duper deluxe performance parts for the engine, that means that this engine here is quite wanted.
.268 horsepower, 211 foot-pounds of torque.
Man, they put this engine in everything. I mean, in this, and this, all the way to the UK, back to the US, front wheel drive, they did it all with this engine. All the way down to bobcats and daggone forklifts. These things do make power if you put a lot of money into it. You gotta get down with this. These things make serious power for what it's worth. In NA form or even in turbo form, these engines do perform. And before the Pinto motor, there was the Kent. In 1959, the original overhead valve 3 main bearing Kent made 39 bhp at 5,000 RPM. At that time, that was good numbers. They also made a 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, and 1.6 that made 111 bhp. To get these things to really crank out, but it really is about power to weight ratio with these engines. You have to have a body that's like an Escort. Put this engine in and tweak the engine. The key to make good horsepower to your car is to balance the car out completely, which your engine horsepower must match the weight of your car. Tires and all of that stuff is the technical aspect, down to suspension and gas and plugs and compression. Those are the other ins and outs of it to make a nice, fast ride. Not all the time do you need high-end torque, but torque does help you move, and then the horsepower takes you to the finish line. Now, if you really talking about a cult following, I'm going to go out on the limb and say this is the best V6 ever made. Matter of fact, I'm going to go out on the limb and say this car was the best American sports sedan, hands down. Hands down. If you're in a parking lot and you've seen one of these, you're going to stop and look at it just for a little bit. So let's listen to your aunt's boyfriend on this dealership tape from Ford.
The 3-liter super high output double overhead cam V6 engine featuring 24-valve design and sequential multi-port electronic fuel injection. It delivers 220 horsepower at 6,200 RPM and 200 foot-pounds of torque at 4,800 RPM. Note that for peak performance throughout a broad range of engine speeds, Taurus SHO features a dual runner-tuned intake manifold and a tuned dual exhaust system.
Thank you for that, Pat Sajak. And he forgot to mention that these engines were used in swaps out the wazoo. I mean, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, sand buggies. Dude, they made them in sand buggies. Have you seen them in sand buggies? Check this out. This is a badass motor. Let me tell you something. The most famous SHO on the internet to me is the one that Zach owns. Zach got that thing cranking. And I know you guys are talking about, they had the V8. They had the V8 version. The V8 version was cool, but when you hear Yamaha SHO, you're going to think V6. You ain't thinking about that V8, because the V6 is overshadowing the V8. The V8 had a little bit of issues. The only issue that it really had was the cam lobes were pressed in. Nothing different than the modular cams. The modular cams were pressed in too, but they figured out what was the defect on why they were slipping, and they made them better for our modular engine, the 4.6s and all that other nonsense. Now, the next engine. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Bring it home, brother. Bring it home, brother. Bring it home. Woo! We know that they made an Inline 6 200, and that's the ones that was in like the Mavericks and the Mustangs and all of that. But that didn't really get no love like this engine here. This is the original stump puller. The original pull a damn plane from Africa to Australia in the water. This engine is solid. This has a cult following like no other in the States and maybe abroad. But this is it, man. 300 motor. You can get it in carb or EFI. Up in the city, we do EFI. In the country, they go carb. In the city, we use it and pick up scrap around there. In the country, they shooting deer, raccoon, and doing some other stuff. No horsepower. You put a turbo on it, sound like a diesel. But anything else other than that, this thing is pulling stuff. That's it. How easy it is to rebuild and just get it back on the road. You ain't got to do the heads. You ain't got to do no heads. Slap them heads off, just do the bottom end and put them damn same pistons and rings right back in it, and they'll be rolling. This is a beautiful, beautiful engine. Again, not for performance, but endurance. The Ford 200 engine is cousin to the Ford 300. Now, you can see how it looks. Smooth running engines, very smooth, strong, durable. I had one in my Granada. No doubt about it, you can't kill this thing. But the cross-flow head version, 250, that's in Australia. That's the one that we should have had. Australia got all the cool stuff. We needed this engine over here. Now, you can take this head and put it on the 200 of America. They have some swap info on that. But this is not really about these engines. It's about the Barra. Just listen to that thing. Turn it up. God dang it, you hear that noise, man. Turn it down. All right, look. This engine is sick. It's the Omega of the inlines for Ford. The Alpha and the Omega. I mean, we gave you the 200. We gave you the 300. God dang it, this is ridiculous. This here is a bad behind motor. Now, the following for this motor became about because they made so many of them. Just like the 4.6. In Australia, it's everywhere. But in Australia, this is like the LS swap of the United States. They put it in everything. I mean everything, but the power is there. You know what I mean? They got the recipe book. It's right there. They're cooking it. They know what to do with it.
In particular, the later models are strong and ideal for a huge turbo upgrade. Indeed, with basic supporting mods such as replacing the plastic intake with a stronger metal item, valve springs, head studs, and an aftermarket oil pump gear, they've been seen to make an easy 600 rear wheel horsepower on a stock bottom end.
I mean, the only thing I see that they do is they always put them in automatics. I don't see a 5-speed behind this. That's the only thing that kind of, but nevertheless, it's still a great engine, man. I had to save this one for last. Man, please leave the comments below. We're going to have a part 2, and this is going to be towards the V8s. I did everything from 4 cylinders to 6 cylinders, V6s, inlines. Man, Ford got so many stuff, man, and you know, there's a cult following for everything. But I know I missed some things. Please leave the comments below, and we can talk about it on the next video. All right? See you guys. Wait a minute.